Who is here? Dean, how are you this evening, Dean? How are you doing? Oh my gosh. So I've been sitting here talking to myself, very interesting conversation, because as I was saying, I'm going to be like 15 minutes early for my own funeral, because I'm an early, I like to be there early. I don't want to miss anything, and I stay late because I don't want to miss anything. But I want to hear what you've been doing. How was your summer? I missed you. Just got to say, I missed you. How was your summer? What did you do? What was the highlight? Do you have a camera and a microphone? Can you jump on and talk to me? Are you willing to jump on and talk to me? I would love it if you would jump on and talk to me. So tonight I really want to catch up on what everybody's been doing, and what was your big takeaway? I won't pressure you to come on and talk to me, but what was your big takeaway from the summer? Did you paint at all during the summer? Did you go to any events? I know you're an early bird like me. You're here. Your laptop doesn't have a camera. Well, but you know what? We can still talk. I'm going to talk more. Did you paint this summer? Did you go to any events? Any events this summer? So I only did a very little. Oh, did you really? Oh my gosh. Now, where do you live, Dean? Pennsylvania. So you've got a really good painter there in PA, and that is Ken Backus. He's in Pennsylvania. But you know who is a really great acrylic painter? And he might change your idea about switching from acrylics, and that's John Poon. Do you know John? Oh, well, you're really awesome. Yeah, because he does acrylics, and he started with acrylics because he was developing some real sensitivities to a lot of different things, and he went through this very interesting kind of, I want to say it was a natural path anyway. And it really helped him get over his sensitivity to oils. However, he discovered that he really enjoyed the acrylics, because of how fast they dry. And he just does amazing things. I got to film him in a class that he did in Scottsdale last April. And it was like, oh my gosh, just to watch him. And it was so amazing how he treated those oils those acrylics as though they were oils. It was very interesting to watch him. And it made me very excited. I thought, oh, maybe I should, give acrylics another thought, because right, that's the thing that it does that oils doesn't. It just dries so fast, right? But the things that oils do that I love is that open time, right? That you're able to work one edge into another, really amazingly. So what was your takeaway of making that transition? What did you like and what did you not like? And while I'm waiting for you to answer, I'm going to have a sip or two. Just saying. So it's late on your end of the world. It's almost 9 o'clock over there. Very nice wine too, by the way. So what did you like about the oils? Oh, who's Mickey? Oh, Mickey. Hi, how are you? How are you? I am so glad. So, Jean, Mickey lives in Florida, and she is one that has been affected, and thankfully not quite so much as others, by Irma. Good. I'm glad you're hanging in there. I have missed you. I'm telling you, I'm so looking forward to this. I have been sitting here since about 5:30, and I thought, well, I'll wait to go live till at least quarter till. And then Dean jumped in, and I've just been talking to him, and he has been making the transition from acrylic to oils. So the colors you touch, they get muddy and it's frustrating. You know, I agree with you. I do. I agree with you. And that's one of those benefits of using acrylic, right? I know. So, Mickey, are you still using acrylic, or have you totally made the transition over to oil? And how long have you been working one or the other? So when you made that transition over to oils, how did you, how were you able to, because I know exactly what Dean's saying about the muddiness that is possible to, you know, happen with the colors getting a little bit touching. Oh, Dean, I mean, oh my gosh, only a week? What a brave soul you are. Wow. Drying time is the pits. So there was this one artist very early on that I worked with that she used darn it. I just had it at the tip of my tongue, and because I've had a couple of sips of wine, it just went out of there. Liquin. She used Liquin so that her work would dry to the touch overnight, right? And I used to do that, but I developed this sensitivity to Liquin, and I started making my own mediums. And I have to be honest, I put a little bit of Damar varnish into my medium so that it will dry more rapidly. And I like that a lot. It allows me, to work on several paintings at one time because I'm waiting for one to dry, right? I agree. I agree. Mickey says that it's best to use acrylics for the underpainting and then apply oils, especially in the beginning. And she also used liquin for the underpainting. I had to give up the liquin though, because it was, I have asthma real bad, and I've only had asthma for, I guess, about 6 years now. But when I developed it, it became something really hard to manage. And it also made it necessary for whenever I'm working with paint to make sure that my paints or that the windows are really open. I've got a lot of exhaust going, sucking up those airs, that the fumes. It gets kind of sensitive there. Well, it's so funny. Okay, so the liquid I'm really sensitive to. And I have to say that when I first started painting with oil, that the aroma really bothered me. But I'm addicted to it now. So that stink that you're talking about, except for the liquid, you throw that liquid in there and suddenly, I'm having some breathing issues. But I have to say that smell of oils, I love, love, love. When I walk into a room, now I couldn't sleep in a room that had that stench in it. I couldn't do that. I have to be careful. But we all have something that we have to be careful about, right? How are the kids doing, Mickey? I know it's just now 6 o'clock. I asked how the kids are doing. And your brother's there right now too, right? Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad that he's there to help you, give you a hand. Yeah. That's awesome. So, Dean, what is the thing that you have found about the oil that you like? I mean, I understand that muddiness. It takes a really light touch to avoid that muddiness, because you know going off into another color, you have to make sure that your hand is very light. Yeah, I agree. So Dean says that the edges are softer and easier to make clouds and distant mountains. Edges become so much easier when you're using oils. I really like that a lot. Really like that a lot. Oh, you know what? I promised someone that I would have my, because she was kind of confused. I'm going to put my glass down. And I promised that I would have my email open in case she needed some help. See, I don't like to have my email open because it dings all the time. So I don't see any emails from her. We're still, a little bit early. But now, usually, and I need to ask you guys because both of you guys are on East Coast time and it's 9 o'clock back at your time. Is this a good time or is this too late for you? Good time for you. Okay, Mickey. How about you, Dean? Just about any time's good for me. I'm so flexible, and I wish my body was quite as flexible as my mind is. I could. Oh, good. Do you happen to know Ken Backus, Dean? Because he's back there. He's a PA boy. And did you happen to see his interview, which is still up on the Master Secrets? I do mean Ken. Did I say Kim? No, I mean Ken. Ken Backus. Did you see his interview on the Master Secrets? Ken is awesome. Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. He is awesome. There's a couple of pieces of his art that I really, really like. All of his work is just absolutely beautiful. But there's a couple of pieces that really, they just reached out and grabbed me. You know how that works, right? So one of them are his fencers, fence fighters. He's done a couple of paintings like that are just like, oh my, you can feel the movement that's going on. It's just like, oh my gosh, that is awesome. And then there's one, in his interview, we were talking about 2008. 2008 is when a lot of things changed for a lot of artists. And one of the things that changed were sales. So Ken comes from an illustrator background, and he just figured that he had to change it up, because he was used to, in his career, having to cater to a client, right? So when 2008 came and every other artist in the world was bemoaning the loss of sales, Ken changed up his compositions, and nothing, he didn't experience any setbacks at all. So one of the paintings that I used in the interview was one that he does of a ocean scene, and it's just the foam in the front, and it's a very simple design, very simple composition, but it is so powerful. Oh, yeah. Oh, good for you. I think that it's on his website too, that painting of the seascape that I'm talking about. It's a very simple design and composition, but it is so powerful. One of my favorites. But I love those fencing painters, or those fencing paintings that he has done. They are just really wonderful. Hi, Jane. How are you? Wonderful. Oh, good. My friends are starting to show up. I have been missing you guys all summer, but I know that summertime is the time that painters are out there doing their plein air stuff. So how are you doing this evening, Jane? They could write a poem about us, Jane, because your last name is Boyd, my last name is Lloyd. We could really be rhyming. I'm just saying. So do you have a camera, Jane, and a microphone, and are you willing to come on and talk with me face to face? I would love that. Not that I'm not enjoying the conversations that we're having with Dean and Mickey. I love that. I do, absolutely. But the only voice that I'm hearing is my own. And I know you guys get it. The sound of my own voice after a while, But if I have enough wine, then maybe, who knows? Who can tell, right? I could get really, really used to the sound of my own voice. So, Mickey, you said, you wrote me earlier. So Mickey and I talk pretty regularly via email, but she has said that it's been a while since she's picked up a brush. So what can we do, Mickey, to help encourage you to get back at it? What would be that thing that you would say, oh my gosh, I got to paint that? Or, oh my gosh, I better get back into the studio and start painting. Stop the hurricanes and the heat. Let's see, if I was bewitched, I could, do the nose thing, twitch my nose. Unfortunately, all I have is a paintbrush. Good. Oh, good. Good. One of the things that I'm doing, just started back actually, spent all summer, because on the Master Secrets website, there's the premium aspect of it. And all summer long, I spent talking about business and different ways for artists to do different things technologically with business. But it's September now, right? So the thing that we're starting in on, because I know that I need it, and that is drawing. So, yeah. So Mickey's asked if I've settled in last January, or this last January. I moved to California. You guys know that. I had some interesting things occur. The first couple of months that I was here, I got really sick in February. But yes, I am on Sundays. I'm really enjoying my Sundays, I have to tell you. And Sundays, I am making sure that I go out and do a little plein air painting. So I'm enjoying that. It's been a while. But the thing that I'm doing is for the Master Secrets, for the website, is I'm drawing. And that really is, honest to goodness, my strength. I have good hand-eye coordination, judgment of distances and line weight are good things for me in graphite and in charcoal. I do okay with paint, drawing in a single color, portraiture, that's my thing. I love painting people. I did this one portrait of one of my neighbors. God love him. He sat for me for over 120 hours, 3 hours at a time, but he came over several times a week and he would sit there with me. Oh yeah, oh my God is right? So I love this painting that I did of him, because one of the things that happens for us as artists is that things that other people look at and are really critical of, we look at and we're going, oh my gosh, how would I paint that? And that is the most interesting thing that I could see. Well, for this friend of mine, he has a very unusual nose and a very, very large, but very unique. And by the time that he was done sitting for me, he had a much different opinion of his nose than he had when he came in. And because he was seeing it through my eyes. And the way that the light and shadow hit his nose, and the light hit his nose and created the shadow, it was just like the most amazing thing. It was just, I loved painting his nose. It was just really amazing. So by the time that we were done, he was viewing himself differently because he was viewing himself through my eyes. And that is the thing, I think, that we as artists are trained to do, because we are trained observers, right? We are looking for something different than just a nose on someone's face. We're looking for something that is a unique identifier. We want to see how the light is shining on something and the shadow that is cast from that light, right? So, Yeah, it was really awesome. So, Dean, what do you paint? What is your subject matter that you think is awesome? Landscapes. Yep, that's a really popular one. And Mickey, how about you? What is your thing? What's your genre? Genre. And Jane, how about you? Mickey must have stepped away. Jane, how about you? What do you like to paint? And then I'll share with you why it was that I started painting faces. And then fell in love with them. A little of everything, but not super realism. I had to see chat so small. Oh, are you on a PC or are you on a Mac? Figurative landscapes, yeah, yeah. There's some really awesome artists out there that do figurative. Have you seen Jeremy Lipking? He does some beautiful figures in the landscape. And still lifes, I love still lifes too. So I have to be honest that the reason that I started painting faces, but found I love faces, or love the figure, was that I read very early on that an artist who could paint the human figure could paint anything. And I thought, okay, well, I want to be able to paint anything, right? So I went into academic study and, studied in the atelier fashion and found that I really love painting faces and the figure, because this golden thread of connection, I could feel it happening between me and the sitter. And it was just like the most incredible experience internally as well as externally. What I was doing on the canvas, it was pretty doggone cool. Hey, Margaret, how are you doing this evening? Good evening. We've got one of your paintings up here, and we're going to talk about it. I'm just waiting for more people to show up. It's amazing how many people registered for this webinar, and I'm hoping that they just have the time a little bit wrong and are going to be here because I have missed you guys so much. Hey, Margaret, do you happen to have a camera and microphone? Want to jump on and talk with me? And, raise your hand if that's something that you are willing to do. Oh, yay! Yay, I get to hear someone else's voice. Yay. Oh, good. I am going to promote you to panelist and bring you over here. I think I have to, hold on just one second. Hello, how are you, Margaret?
Yes.
How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. I'm a little late. I'm sorry I didn't log on at exactly 6.
Nope, I'm just grateful that you're here. Hey, I love the painting that you submitted, and we'll just wait and see if we've got a little bit of other people who are just running a little bit late. How are you doing? You're up in the Northwest, right? You're in Oregon?
Yes, Eugene, Oregon.
Yeah. How are you doing? How's the weather?
Well, it's been cold and raining the past 4 days, but I guess it's going to get warm this weekend.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it was down to in the 50s.
Now, you guys haven't been having any trouble with the fires.
Oh, yeah.
No, you're having trouble with the fires.
Huge fires everywhere through Oregon. No, it's really been one of the worst because we had record heat this summer with 107, hotter than they have ever recorded. And it was a big, long heat, very hot summer. So everything dried out because we don't get rain in the summer. And so everything dried out and then it caught fire. And so the past 4 days, we haven't had any rain. And then the past 4 days we've had rain. So that was really good. And it has helped the firefighters, but there's still fires going on.
Now, where are they around you?
Not in Eugene, but the smoke from the other fires made the air quality in Eugene dangerous.
Oh, now see, my son still lives up in Washington State. He lives up in just south of Seattle, southeast of Seattle, little town called Graham. And he was telling me that they were having ash come all over them. And it was just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, so the city of Portland had a lot of ash falling all over that city, which was bad. There was a couple of teenagers that started a fire in the Columbia River Gorge. And that fire is not completely out yet.
So is that the one that's responsible for the burning that was going on around Multnomah Falls?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, that is.
Yeah, and Hood River, and yes, it was a very, very terrible thing. There's, teenagers who were just, I don't know if they realized, they should have realized they were old enough, but they threw a smoke bomb over a cliff and started the fire, and then videotaped themselves doing it.
Well, that was helpful for the.
No, because they just wanted to, put it on media. But it's a huge fire. It's a very big, big fire, and it's caused a lot of damage.
Wow.
But that's just one of about 4 really big fires. Down in southern Oregon, near Brookings is the biggest fire. It's a really terrible fire.
I heard about that one, but I haven't heard much of it lately. What's going on there?
Well, it's, these huge fires, they say that they probably can't really get them out till mid-October.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, they're big.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Yeah, so it's been a really bad fire season.
Oh my goodness. And the people in Florida and Texas are wishing they could send some rain over,
Well, we were lucky to get rain the past 4 days.
Good.
So, and also the temperature went, down until it was actually chilly. I had to turn the heat on a couple of days, but so that was good, because the firefighters didn't have to contend with so much heat, and they got some rain, so that was good. But it doesn't, just a couple of days of rain is not enough to put out a whole huge forest fire.
No. So what have you been doing this summer? Have you been out plein air painting? Have you participated in any events?
No, I haven't. I have an identical twin sister, and she also paints, and she came out, and she was here for 3 weeks, and we just kind of drove all around and took a lot of photographs of landscape. But when she's visiting, we kind of don't want to sit in one spot for 3 hours, when we could be driving around looking at a lot of other things. So
that's. Now, where is she from? Where she live?
She lives in a little farming town in Indiana called Brookston.
Oh.
It's 12 miles from West Lafayette, where Purdue University is.
Oh, sweet. So
yeah.
It's nice for her to come out to Oregon so that she can have a little bit different landscape.
Right. So we went to the coast, we went to the mountains, we did all that.
Yeah, because you're not very close to the ocean in Indiana, right?
Right. Yeah. So when she comes out, we always, go to these different places.
Awesome.
Yep. And then I had a solo show of my paintings at White Lotus Gallery in Eugene had 21 paintings in
Congratulations.
the show. It was a big show.
Awesome.
And that was,
Congratulations.
yeah, it was good. It was very successful.
Awesome. So that means you made sales.
Yeah, and they're big paintings. You know, it's funny. The smallest painting I do is about 16 by 20, but then they go up to 3 feet by 4 feet. So the big ones were the ones that people wanted to buy.
Wow. Now that's really interesting because, you only have so many walls, right? I mean, there's only so much wall space. So were they bought commercially or just people who have big homes?
Just by people, the gallery's selling the painting. So I didn't necessarily meet the people that
That was going
bought
to
the
be my next
paintings,
question.
but
That was going to be my next
when
question.
you say commercially, I don't know what you mean by that.
For offices.
Oh, you mean like a corporation? Yeah. Yeah, no, this gallery doesn't. No, there was not a corporation.
The collectors of your paintings
Um,
when they're sold through a gallery.
yeah, there are people that have bought more than one painting.
Oh, that's awesome.
So
that's a collector. That's
so
awesome.
yeah. So I anticipate having another solo show this next spring in May, perhaps. This past one was in April.
So when you're doing a show like that, how many paintings does the gallery request you have? And
I had 21 in this past show.
How long does it take you to produce a body of work like that?
I had 18 new paintings that had never been shown before, and I delivered those, and then they called and asked for 5 more. And I like to do a show with a theme, and so the theme of this particular show was called Wetlands. That was the title of the show. So all of the paintings had water in them. It's in some way or another. And so when they asked for 5 more, I went back to some paintings that had been exhibited in a solo show 2 years prior and took out the 5 that had water. And then they went into the show also. So that made 21 paintings.
Sweet. Sweet. And how long did it take you to do that?
Well, the 18 new paintings I did between September and March.
Are you working in oil?
Yes.
Are you using a dryer? We were just talking about that. That's why I'm asking. Were you using like liquid or your medium?
Yeah, yes, I use liquid as a medium.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Right. And I use Gambar as a varnish.
And I was just going to ask if you varnish them before you put them into the show, or if that's something that you offer afterwards.
I make that decision. I don't necessarily varnish everything, but I'm tending to do it more and more. I think that I like a varnished surface. It does change the surface. I like to have a surface be very even, and I don't like thick paint on my surfaces. There's brush strokes are definitely identifiable, but I don't like bumpy thick paint because I want the viewer's vision and the viewer to kind of move into the space of the painting and not be so aware that there's a lot of paint, goopy paint on the surface of a canvas. So my paintings don't have a lot of thick paint on them.
Do you do a lot of layers, or are
Yes.
you doing alla prima? Awesome.
I mean, there's an underpainting on the whole surface. And then there's maybe 3 more, depending, not necessarily over the whole surface, but there's definitely, at least 2, maybe 3 layers on the whole surface. And then I might work in, some more detailed areas further. So there is a lot of paint. And that's one reason I like Liquin, because I can be painting the next day on the surface. It's not necessarily completely dry, but it's definitely very tacky.
Right.
So, in places, it'll be dry.
Yeah.
So I can work back into it.
Yeah, we were just talking about Liquin just before you came on, because it is one of those products that really does make a difference in the drying time of oils. And do you use earth tones? Because those have a tendency to sink in, right? And those are what encourage one to use a varnish, right? Rather than, because that they can have a different value or a different gloss to them if they're sunk in, right?
Using Liquin, I have found that, when you paint more in one spot and less in another, and you kind of get patches that are matte and other patches that are glossy.
Mm-hmm.
But I've found using Liquin, it does tend to make the surface all the same, even matteness.
Oh.
And I didn't varnish any of my earlier paintings, even the large paintings. I just really started varnishing, I guess about 2 years ago. And it does, there is that protection, and with some colors, and I think the darker colors, it does enhance a kind of depth. So now I'm tending to varnish more.
And how long are you waiting?
Well, I use Gambar, and Gamlin says, and I don't have thick paint on my surface, as I was saying. So Gamlin says that somebody can varnish as soon as the paint is dry and your fingernail will not go into the paint, go dent into the paint, that it's a hard dry, then you can varnish. So for my paintings, I can probably varnish, 3 weeks. Wow. Just to be really super safe, 3 weeks after, even though the painting is really probably completely dry after a week. But I still wait longer than that.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So, you don't have to deal with any of the old 6-month waiting thing. And also, Gamvar can be removed with just Gamsol from the surface. So, which I have done in the past when I didn't like, I tried. They now make a matte and a satin. They make gloss, satin, and matte. And I tried the satin just to see, because I thought I didn't really like it being as glossy. And so I wanted to see what satin was, and I tried it and I didn't like it. And so I removed it. And it was really easy to remove.
And it didn't lift?
No, none of the paint came off. And then I put gloss on as the second, when it was, when that was dry and the surface was dry, I put gloss on, and it went on perfectly, very smooth, and I was happy with it. So anyway, I would recommend it.
How long does it take for the Gambar to dry?
I would say a couple of days. They say within a couple of hours that it's, pretty dry. And that's true. But then it's still just a little bit tacky. Just touching it, you can just feel it's not like hard, slick, hard, dry. And so I usually I count on waiting a couple of days, and then it's a complete, slick, hard, dry.
Now, do you ever sell your own paintings and then have to ship them?
No, the gallery ships.
Sweet, very nice.
But in my last show, the very last week of the show, I heard the story from the gallery that a man was visiting his friend, and he was from Texas, and they were just looking for something to do, so they wandered into the gallery, and he bought actually my favorite painting. So it went off to Texas, and I'll never see that one again.
Awesome. Congratulations.
So they shipped it to Texas.
Awesome. Congratulations. That's awesome. Well, you know what? I want to show everyone what it is that we're talking about here. I want to show them one of your paintings. So let's see here. Here we go. So this is Margaret's painting right here. Now, what's the title of this one, Margaret?
This one is called, let's see, what is it called? Carolyn's Garden.
Carolyn's Garden.
Yeah.
Well, I really love the way that you've handled your greens back here. It really feels like what's going on there in the Northwest. And your tips here on your ornamental grasses are just really beautiful. Has a very pristine feel to it, just like it was in someone's backyard. Is that what it is?
Yes, this was a very extensive garden. So wasn't just a backyard of a house. It was in a sense, but it went kind of on and on. So this is just a piece of it.
Mm-hmm. I love this rock right here.
Oh, thank you. Good.
You handled that just really beautifully. And I love how you have this red, is that like a burnt sienna here in the front? And
well, everything's mixed. So
But I love the little touches that you have.
Yeah.
Throughout. It's very nice harmony that you've got going there.
Well, one thing I liked about this this scene was the variety of greens in it. Mm-hmm. That each tree has a different natural color. Mm-hmm. And so it when you in the summer you have so many greens and you just don't want I look for variety of structure in trees and in the value and tone of the different greens. And I always love red and green together. So having this burnt reds in there with the green was, definitely an attraction for me. So I used, for many, many years, I was a printmaker.
Yes.
And doing etchings and woodcut prints. And so my tendency is to be attracted to compositions or subject matter that has a lot of graphic qualities of contrast. And so that Pappas grass that's right up in front of all those dark values, that was another attraction.
Mm-hmm. And, that's the only thing that I can see in here that you might consider is losing some of the edges on the Pampas grass. Just
soften them.
Just soften a few of those. Otherwise, I think it's a very successful painting. You did very nice.
Good. Thank you for the comment.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Beautiful painting. And it really reminds me of the Northwest. I lived in the Northwest for 20 plus years, so I'm very familiar with it. So,
Yeah, that's 40 inches high and 30 inches wide.
that's a very nice size painting. And thank you for mentioning that. I had written that down, that that was the size of it, because some of our viewers really like to know the size of the painting. And
yeah, that's probably my most frustrating thing when I see people's artwork on the internet and there's no size. I find that so frustrating because size matters.
it does. And
If something's 11 by 14 or 2 foot by 3 foot, I mean, that's a, we have to know that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, that is one of the things that, that people have asked for when we were doing the critiques, is that we share the size of the paintings, and they really like to know how large it is. And a 30 by 40, that's a good size painting.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you stretch your own canvases?
I don't. I buy pre-stretched canvases because I'm a little bit older and I just can't really get down on the floor with, I have, in my lifetime, I've stretched lots of canvases, but now I don't know if I buy pre-stretched Paramount professional gallery wrapped canvases from Jerry's Artorama.
And Paramount, I'm not familiar.
Yeah, Paramount, and their stretchers are incredibly well made, and they're about an inch and a half deep. So the canvas is wrapped all the way around and stapled on the back. So I paint the sides of the canvas too. I paint all the way around.
So you don't have to have a frame.
Right. The last show had all the paintings had no frames. And I think that having this thicker stretcher coming off the wall an inch and a half is very substantial. And so it has that visual weight.
Yeah.
When it's coming off the wall that much. So, and in addition to that, it's very, very strong because it makes a very strong stretcher, So you can pick it up, it's relatively light, but then the stretcher is so well made that there's no torquing or anything. They do a really good job.
How do you think that printmaking affected your fine art? What kind of influence did that have? Because printmaking is usually a value structure, right?
Yeah, value. I mean, I was head of printmaking and taught for 26 years at the University of Oregon in their art department. And then before that I taught, other places too. So I taught all the printmaking things, but I also taught drawing, and I was kind of known for paper making. So all of that, I didn't really start painting until after I retired.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was very sick, and I had cancer, and I couldn't stand I didn't have the energy. I mean, I couldn't stand at the etching press and get the ink out. It takes 3 hours minimum once you start getting ink out. And I couldn't stand that long. I could only stand about 20 minutes at a time. And so my sister, who was came out to take care of me, she said, well, you can sit at the kitchen table and paint. And so then and I just really started doing it as an entertainment for myself, because I was just, going through chemo and radiation, and she set up a little table easel for me and got an 11 by 14 canvas panel, and I set up a little still life on the table next to me, and she got me a piece of glass and 2 or 3 brushes and, some primary colors. And I just started, mixing colors. And it was really about the color that totally fascinated me, because the whole time I was doing etchings and woodcuts, mine were always, a lot of times people think etchings are always black and white, but I like color, and I would have very colorful etchings and woodcuts. But when you're doing an etching that's in color, usually it's a separate plate for every color, and it's a different run through the press. So, if you have 10 colors in an etching, that is a big deal. It takes a long time. And so when I started painting, it was just like, no, make 50 colors, 100 colors. And it took no time at all. So it's really been all about the color that's gotten me to want to paint and to go into nature, and to study the colors in nature.
Do you do plein air?
I did in the very beginning. I was doing plein air when I was painting small, 11 by 14. But when and so in the very beginning, I just painted, small, when I was really kind of teaching myself to paint, because I had not really ever painted before. And when I started painting large, then I really fell in love with painting. And my prints were always pretty large. So when I was painting 11 by 14, I felt like I was kind of poking a small little 11 by 14 canvas. It just didn't, I like to have the canvas fill my peripheral vision. So I feel like I'm inside this space. And so when I started, the first larger paintings were 2 foot by 3 foot. And I loved that. And that's probably a size that I, paint the most.
Mm-hmm. 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 Well, that's wonderful. So Jane is waiting over there for us to talk about her painting. And Jane has sent in also one over here. This one is, and she actually said how big this one was. This is a 24 by 48. It's a big one as well. So I'm going to share my screen. Here we go, Jane, and here we go. So this is Jane's. I really feel the aerial perspective. This back here feels really far away. And I wish that, Jane, that you would actually come on and tell us about your painting here. Let's see here. Are you there, Jane? And let's see if I can pull up the chat here. There we go. So, Jane, can you tell us about where this is a little bit? Are you there? So one of the things that I see, I love the aerial perspective of this. I love feeling the distance of this landform back there. But this is a very high key painting, and the land and the sky and the distant mountains are very high key. And these shapes, these foliage shapes, these trees seem a little bit dark to me for the key of the rest of the painting. But I love the colors that you've chosen. I think if you were to either knock back some of the chroma on these verticals, that it would have it would have more authority, believe it or not, because the darkness that is going on in these value structures in the trees and the uprights is just a little bit too impacting for the rest of the painting that is so very light. What do you think, Margaret?
I agree. Yeah. Definitely.
Now, I love the color harmony that you've got going. If you were to knock these down, the value down on these verticals.
Yeah, I'd like to see a little more variation in some of the color in the foreground.
And I thought that too, Margaret, whenever whenever I got it. It was a very small image, but as I blew it up, and I really hope that it is coming across cyberspace here, because she does have some beautiful colors here in the foreground. There are some beautiful, cool blues, and I see some really nice greens, but then there's some warmth over here that are going on throughout. So there is a variation. The value structure is very solid in this land mass.
Mm.
But I think that it probably could take just a little bit more chroma
Yeah.
in it, like this right here. You know, if this if this land mass had more of this value and chroma that you have here in the lower left here, I don't think that you would have to make an adjustment on the verticals. And
yeah, I'd like to see that just the same place that you're talking about extended out towards the center a little bit more, so that there wouldn't be the shape of that is almost the same width as the shape of the dark thing above it.
mm-hmm.
So they kind of make a vertical, and there's a symmetry is so strong already
Mm-hmm.
that it'd be good to find something that could be a diagonal that could, extend more into the center and lead the eye from that corner up into the diagonal towards the right-hand side.
So if this color and value was used in more of a Z shape or a C shape, I think that it would really help lead the eye throughout the entire painting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Creating, triangles, which I think it's always nice in a composition to have triangles.
But I love the colors that she has used in here. I really am attracted to the color schemes that she has in the foliage, especially here on the left. The value is just, I think, too stark in comparison to the ground plane, and the ground plane and the overcast sky are too similar in their value structure as well. And I think she's got a lot going on here. There's a lot of possibilities that are going on here. So I hope
Yeah, 4 feet wide, there's a lot of space to go into.
Absolutely. Yeah, she's got a big one going here. Jane's, it's 24 by 48. So, I mean, that's a big painting. And I think that the design of it, with those adjustments, either in the verticals, in the foliage, the trees, or in the ground plane, I like the simplicity of your design. Just a couple of things, I think we'll take it from a good painting to a really, really awesome painting. So there's not much to do on it, but those little bits I think will make a big difference. I do love the colors that she has over here. You know, there's that contrast. That complement of that orangey and that blue, but the values are just really spot on. She's got some really good value structure in her colors. It's just that the contrast in the values is pretty strong. So awesome. Keep working on it. Or maybe you've already sold it. I don't know. Jane, I wish that you'd pipe up here for us and give us some info over here. I'm looking for you. Holly, how are you? I haven't seen anybody all summer long. It's just awesome to see you here. Jane, are you there? Are you willing to jump on with us? Do you have a camera and a microphone? Are you willing to type in? And was that helpful for you? Or what have you got for us? I'm so glad, Margaret, that you decided to jump on with me, because you know how it is when you hear the sound of your own voice for so long, right?
Yeah, well, I always enjoy these sessions and getting some feedback, because I don't get feedback from almost anybody. I don't have a lot of friends that are painting anything that's similar, so I just don't, I don't get an opportunity to discuss paintings with people.
So that's what this is really all about. And I know that the first one, although we had a lot of people register, I was surprised at how many people registered for the webinar tonight. I was going, oh my gosh, I hope they all show up, but I hope that any of them show up. But that for me, this is an opportunity to connect with a wide variety of artists who are doing a lot of different things, and to get some feedback, because when we come together, we get to talk about what each of us is doing. Like Dean, before he left, he was talking about how he was making the transition from acrylics over to oil. And, that is a big transition, right? I mean, and then Mickey was saying how she had already made that a couple of years ago. And, to start talking about the things that you're finding as a challenge and the things that you're finding successful in those mediums or subject matters are really helpful. First, we find out that we're not the only ones that are struggling, right? And then we find out that, someone has handled it in a specific way and it resonates with us. And the next time we pick up the brush, we go to the canvas, you know, we've got a little bit of a different idea and approach it that way. And voila, our problem is solved, right? So I love that. I love these conversations, and I'm just so grateful that you're willing to jump on here and talk. You got a friend back there. Who's your kitty cat? No,
Oh, Simon.
Simon.
Oh, you can see Simon.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
He, yeah, I adopted him from the local rescue.
Wonderful.
And yeah, he has me wrapped completely around his little paw.
He's got you trained well then.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
He's a good companion.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So this summer, what is the thing that you have been working on that has given you the most angst?
Yes, the one thing that that I'm my next kind of inquiry. I tend to pick landscape places that have already built into them a lot of color and opportunity for composition and all of that. But I'm not good at putting in colors that aren't there, inventing color that isn't there. And so I think that is eliminating a lot of potential compositions and paintings, because the place that I'm painting doesn't offer its own a variety of color. So I see other people painting. They'll show a photograph of what they were painting, and then I look at their painting, and the colors in their painting have nothing to do with what's in the photograph. And I don't know even like where to go with that or how to approach that, how to throw in a color that is not something I'm looking at. And so that's the biggest inquiry that I'm wanting to get some help with.
So that's one of the things that I see that Jane has got a strength with. She is really good at putting in colors that are the same value, but might not necessarily be there. But if you squint down on them, you're going, oh my gosh, you know what? That's the same value as that burnt color that she's got there. But an artist that I studied with very early on, one of the things that she said about color was that it is when you are seeing the color in your peripheral that you see different hues. When you're looking straight on, you're seeing the full saturation, right? But it's when you are looking at something else and that peripheral vision is where those other colors live. And for the longest time, I kept kind of trying to, develop this peripheral kind of thing going on, because it just seemed kind of like that wasn't really what I was seeing, right? And it actually took a few years, honest to goodness. But there was one day that I was looking at something and I'm going, oh my gosh, that's violet over there. I mean, it took me off. It kind of took me by surprise because I'm looking over here, but all of a sudden I'm recognizing that there's a violet color, and I turned and I looked and I saw maybe something, but when I turned my head back and allowed that peripheral vision, I looked back and I'm going, oh my gosh, I could put a real muted violet in there and it's going to read right. And so I tried it, I experimented with it, and it worked. So every artist has got something different that they use to bring that color into their paintings.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it would be good to do some of that. And I do look for color, more, I look to enhance color that's more possibly very subtle, in the landscape. And one thing that bothers me about painters that throw in a lot of colors that just, aren't there is that they tend to use one palette. And if you know their paintings, you can recognize their paintings because, that painting must be by so-and-so because there's the palette, so their colors are kind of always in their paintings, and that they're just not in every single landscape. So one of the things I like about going out into the landscape in all different kinds of weather is to paint, sometimes on a stormy, dark, cloudy day, and not always in bright sunshine. I like that variety of different kinds of light, and using a palette that that particular landscape speaks to. But sometimes it's just I'd like to throw in a color that isn't there, but I still don't, that might be a complementary color to something else that is in there. And I just haven't had the courage to do it very much. I mean, I can enhance colors and kind of push colors that are already there. But I do like variety, a really big variety. And that's why one reason I like to go out in the landscape, because there's, light is always different, and the clouds, and, if it's stormy. My first solo show was titled Storm Clouds in the Landscape. And it was, all the paintings were in stormy weather.
Uh-huh.
So, I like that sometimes a kind of dark thing. It's maybe an Oregon thing.
Yeah. Well, there's lots of clouds up there.
Yeah.
Well, have you ever looked at Harley Brown? Because Harley Brown is, oh my gosh, she's got a lot of color in his work. Have you ever looked at his work?
No.
Harley doesn't have a website, but I'm sure that you can Google him, and a lot of his work is portraiture, but Harley also has done some incredible landscapes too, and he uses color in an amazing kind of way. So you can,
well, I'll see if I can find him.
Yeah, Google some of his images. Harley is definitely a color guy. He's got lots and lots of color.
Well, I want to definitely have a reason why any color would be there. So I wouldn't just be throwing color in for color's sake.
Well, I think that Harley, because I've done a few interviews with Harley, and I think that one of his, he's very attracted to color, one, and that he likes to see about using color and color temperature to to enhance the form, because a cooler color recedes and a warm color advances, right?
Mhm.
Even if they're of the same value.
Yeah.
A cooler color of the same value is going to look lighter than the same value of a warm color. It's going to appear to um, be darker, right? So a cooler color is going to appear, even though it's the same value, is going to appear lighter. So it's going to recede. And that's a wonderful exercise too, by the way, is, just painting a sphere.
Well, it reminds me of Albers, his Joseph Albers paintings, when he was just doing those experiments of value and color,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
two values.
Yeah. Yes. And I love that. I do love when an artist really starts experimenting, because it really shows that their growth, that they are really beginning to um, go beyond what's predicted, and
Mhm.
instead do something that is completely unexpected. So his is a lot of cubism, a lot of squares, and um, I like what it is that he's doing.
I do have a website if you want to just kind of look through a lot of my paintings to see what the general thing is about.
Well, Margaret, I've been to your website, but how about giving it to those that are here on the call?
Yeah, it's just www.margaretprentice, MARGARETPRENTICE, all one word.com.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have some beautiful stuff on here, Margaret. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, you've got some beautiful. I love the marsh that's on there. It's beautiful. Really lovely. Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, I think that this was a good first call. I'm so grateful, Margaret, that you decided to jump on here, because I loved speaking with you. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for sending in your painting. That was beautiful. And thank you so much. And Jane, you as well, too. And Mickey, thank you for everyone being here. Got something else to talk about? I'm willing to stay here and talk.
Well, I was just wondering about your move to California. Didn't you move to California?
I did. I did.
So how is it?
Well, I'm really enjoying it. This summer.
Bay Area?
No, I'm in Southern California. I'm not too far from San Diego. I'm
Okay.
in the town of Vista. I really like it here. This summer was a little bit more humid, and about 5 or 6 years ago, I developed asthma. And one of the triggers for me is humidity. And so the summers were, this summer, which everyone has assured me is really quite unusual, has really created, a little bit of angst there for that. But one of the things that the place that I walk is just about a quarter mile from where I'm at. Got to go across a busy street, and then I'm out in the middle of nowhere. So I have spent a lot of time out in the country, right? And I have, I love nature, love nature. But I have seen more rattlesnakes here than I have seen any. I grew up in Arizona. This is a rattler that I came across. This guy was 6 foot that I came across just a couple of weeks ago.
So and you have those in Southern California?
Yes, and not very far from me either.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Well, it's open. It's trails and wooded, and when I came across him, I was just going, "Oh, you have the right of way." He was a big guy. I got real close to him because I wanted that picture. He wasn't aggressive or anything. Now, yesterday when I was walking, there was a little tiny rattlesnake, and he was aggressive. I didn't get a picture of him because he was just too unpredictable, and I wasn't going to play with him. But that big guy, I had no problem. He just sauntered, and maybe he'd just gotten done with a meal or something, was still digesting. I don't know what it was, but I got to see what the path of a snake looks like going across dirt like that. So I am really enjoying it because I spent 20 plus years up in Washington. I'm really a country girl at heart. So having wide open spaces is really important to me, and even if they have snakes in them.
You have a new studio? How is that breaking in a new studio?
That's a little bit challenging. So the thing that has happened with my work is that I have I've always been a little techie. And over the years, I've had friends ask me, can you help me with this? Can you help me with this? And so my business has turned to marketing for artists. And so I'm not painting nearly as much as I used to, but I'm loving what it is that I'm doing because I'm surrounded by beauty all the time. I'm surrounded by artists. That's who it is that I do the marketing for. And I love computers, so I'm just really having quite the time of my life. But I am, like I was telling Mickey, I am making sure that on Sundays I go out and do some plein air. And because I've got the website and the premium content on that, I'm doing a drawing. I'm going back to my roots, drawing. It's all about shape and value, so I'm enjoying it. So there's been some big changes, and there's some things that I'm making myself do because I'm an artist. What can I say? But my palette, my canvas has expanded to being a digital kind of palette and canvas as well. So it's a lot of fun. So California is it's been interesting. I'm enjoying it.
Well, that is a place that you can do plein air all year round.
Absolutely. It rained today though. It rained down here. I went up to get the mail and I'm going, did somebody open a hose here or what? I think it rained because, that's when you're up in the Northwest, that's one of those things that you get really used to really easily, right? Lots of rain. And that was always a great excuse to stay in the studio, have friends come over, and paint in the studio or have people come and sit for me, and it was really a lot of fun. So yeah, setting up a new studio is always it's always interesting. It's always fun, but it's always interesting, and it does take some determination, I do believe. So, you know.
Well, my big problem, because I do like to paint I realize that 2 foot by 3 foot and 3 foot by 4 foot is not really large, but I am a very practical, and at my age, I've decided not to paint larger than what will fit in my car. And 3 foot by 4 foot is it. So I now am having to anticipate storage issues. And it's like, I've never, ever had a storage unit in my entire life. And I'm thinking, oh no, I hope I don't have to do that now.
So here's a couple of things. Michele Del Campo, who we've done interviews with, a couple of them, paints very large. And the thing that he does is once they're done, he takes them off the stretcher bars, disassembles the stretcher bars. He'll mail them wherever it is that they've got to go, and then they're re-stretched once they get there. Where I got the idea from, though, was from Richard Smid. Richard Smid takes and he paints on the canvas, attaches the canvas to a board via tape, and then rolls it up once it's dry and stores it in a whole bunch of I want to say they're like ABS tubes, plastic tubes. And that's what I started doing a long time ago, because I started to get overrun by canvases as well.
But see, all of the paintings that I'm doing go into a solo exhibition.
You got to have storage then.
So, they need to be stretched, and initially. And I mean, I did send a painting to France, and then I took it off the stretcher and put it in a really large tube, and then it went to France, and then the people in France re-stretched it. But generally, all the paintings that I do are going into a solo show, so they need to stay on stretchers.
Yeah. Michele, though, he had a show in Lima, Peru, and he had to take everything off the stretchers and send them to the gallery, and the gallery re-stretched them and for the show. So
yeah,
I don't know how all of that works. I haven't ever had to do that, but I have.
It's very expensive.
Yeah.
I know, right? Taking things off stretchers is probably not. Anyway, I have 2 rooms in my house for studios. One of them is a storage studio and has a big table, a lot of flat files and big table where I varnish. The other room is just for painting. But I have storage racks, and they're starting to get very full. So by next year, I'm going to have a problem.
Yeah, when you're a real prolific painter, you need to think about.
Because I do probably 18 to 20 paintings a year.
That's very good. That's dedication. Good for you. You get a gold star.
Once I get going, they just, there's just a pace, you just get involved in color, and composition. Once I start painting, there's a rhythm. And I probably only paint 3 to 4 hours a day. I don't paint more than 4 hours a day. Then
That's a
I'm,
good day, though. That's a
yeah.
wonderful day.
And then I don't paint not 7 days a week, but probably 5. When I'm painting, I paint probably 3 to 4 hours a day, 5 days a week.
Good for you. That's
So
very good. That's dedication. Awesome.
it's what retirement's all about.
Yeah. Well, it's purpose, right?
I get so much more done now when I'm retired than I did when I was teaching.
Well, that's your focus, though, right? I mean, oh my gosh, yeah.
So I feel it's just what I love. Totally indulgent.
That's a great indulgent because, I personally myself, I think that the reason that it's so easy for me to get into the marketing side of it is I really believe that what you do as an artist is really incredibly important. This world needs more beauty, and having artists to create and supply that is really important. So good for you.
And I just really love, when I was growing up as a child, I had original and paintings, on the walls in houses around me. And that's what I really love. I want to make work that people can live with in their homes and not just see paintings in museums. You know what I mean? So that's what always gets me, when the paintings go into someone's home.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Good for you. Awesome. Congratulations. You're doing well.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think with that, we're going to call it a night this evening. And I really thank you, Margaret, so much for being here. And thank you so much for talking with me. And Nikki, thank you for being here. And Jane, thank you for sharing your work with us. And I would love to hear from you, Jane, especially if you rework this painting, if it's already sold or it already has a forever home, then I'd like to know that too. But quite a few of the artists who have sent in their paintings for critiques rework them and then share the changes that they have done. So if you do feel inspired to do that, I'd really love it if you would share that with us. Mickey, you take care, and love seeing you here. And Margaret, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey, and this will in the next couple of days be up on YouTube, and you'll be able to see it. So thank you so much for being here. Oh, you're awesome, Margaret. You're awesome. Thank you, everyone. Good night. Love you all. So glad summer's over. So glad that you're here. You guys have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.